Welcome to Club Damingo, brought to you by Cyclone Comics.
Just do a bit of a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A cup of tea.
Cheers.
Hello, Tim. How's it going?
I'm good, man. How are you?
You've renovated. What's your studio behind you there?
Isn't that a lovely looking studio?
Hold on a sec.
That's pretty big, isn't it? I knocked out a couple of walls.
I was going to say, I hope you didn't knock down some load-bearing walls.
Yeah. No, I've resituated myself at the moment. I hear there's some action going on in the Northern Hemisphere, and thought I'd come up and just sit
get
just
amongst
across
it.
the border. Yeah, just sit across the border from Iran for a couple of days. I'm beaming in live from Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. And yeah, so this is the hotel lobby.
Right, okay. And you were noting that the internet speeds and connection is a hell of a lot better than your Sydney speeds.
Yep, my this is 3 times faster than my studio. I just did it. Oh, hope the image is going to be okay. Yeah, so it's really good.
So this conversation has happened, hours after the whole Trump bombing Iran business. So Tim and I have just been talking about the vibe there. So continue on with what you were saying, Tim. We decided to press record, so we didn't want to repeat it. So
yeah. So for those who don't know, Dubai is in the Persian Gulf, where I hope to go swim today. I've never swum in the Persian Gulf before. And the Persian Gulf is what separates the United Arab Emirates from Iran. So the other night when we went up for a drive and we were watching the sunset in the west, and that was. I'm just thinking that's just across the water. Iran is just across the water, so it's pretty crazy. But it's awful to be talking about such crazy activity in such a flippant manner because I'm on holidays and there's a war going on and people are dying. But it's also hard not to kind of disassociate in that manner while I'm sitting here thinking like it's I think that a landfall is only like 200 k's or something off the water where we are in Dubai. But then on top of that, I guess, again, to use flippant terminology, that most of the action is happening in or around Tehran, which is very north
it is
Iran.
north of Iran, yeah.
Yeah, and Iran's a very large landmass, so it's actually happening quite a distance away. But if you look at the flight trackers with all of the planes on it, there's this big empty space now between Iran and Israel, where the planes are all going, whoop, not going there, whoop.
What's the vibe like? What's the vibe like on the street?
Oh, well, I'm one of those tourists who doesn't really get to see much of what's going on in the street. But as I was saying to you before, we haven't really made enough connections with people personally to get a proper conversation happening about it. But the tour guide that we were with yesterday, who we spent 8 hours with or something, it's a long day. At the end, we were asking him exactly that question, like, what's the vibe? Are you guys concerned? Mostly about the proximity of the countries. I didn't really want to get into a political discussion. And God bless him, or Allah bless him, or whatever the religion is for the man we were chatting with. He didn't quite get political about it, but he also didn't just talk about are they concerned about anything spilling over here. He was instead saying, because he said, I'm a pacifist, this shouldn't be happening at all. War is bad, no matter for what reason. So we didn't really get an idea of what people here are feeling. That being said, we have been in tourist areas as well as normal areas, and everything just feels 100% like what I guess business as usual would be.
Right.
So it doesn't feel like anything's not happening. It's actually low season here tourist-wise, even though it's winter in Australia and it's summer here. We made the same mistake. Not the mistake. We had the same thing happen to us the one time we went to Townsville. Was it Townsville? Yeah. Emily's just sitting opposite me. When we went in the height of summer, going, it's summer. You go to these places in summer, and you don't, because it's so hot that summer is the low season, winter is the high season. So, yeah. So in Townsville, like the stingers in the sea, and it's just way too hot.
Yep.
Way too hot here.
Yeah.
Our first day here was like 40 or 41. It was supposed to be 39, but it actually got up to 40 and 41 that day. So yeah, it's pretty hot and pretty humid as well. But we went out to the desert yesterday to a little safari thing. So it was really
saw
beautiful.
some photos online with the camels. So there was that trip.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It was actually cooler in the desert than it is here in the city,
right?
Which often happens in cities. But so that's
some,
what we're doing.
Some of those shots online, you looked pretty drenched, pretty hot.
Yeah,
you look hot, McEwen. You look hot.
That's not hard. Look at this. So the other thing I did yesterday, which I said to you, I probably wasn't going to get time to do before we chatted today, is I went to the comic shop. So that was cool.
That was my next question. Yes. Yeah. How did that go?
So, fine. From what I can tell, there is only one actual comic shop here. There's quite a few pop culture shops, but only one comic shop from what I can tell. And it's all back issues, and it's a very small shop, very kind of tiny little area. It's all back issues, but it's owned by a person I've been corresponding with a little bit via email. I was actually hoping to do a signing here, which didn't come off, which is fine. I know I'm nobody, especially once you remove me from Australia. But I thought it'd be fun if I just sat in a place for an hour or so and see what would happen. But anyway, it didn't happen. Didn't happen here or France or Malta. I tried all three of those places. But I've been corresponding with the gentleman who owns the shop, and he's like this enormous millionaire, probably billionaire sheikh, and he bought himself a comic shop, and he runs a local convention, and he does little pop-ups. And I think this is all conjecture on my part, but I would say that part of it is that he has the money to pay for someone to come over to do signings. So if he's a fan of this voice actor or whatever, then he'll bring the voice actor out and and call it a signing. So it's pretty amazing. So tiny little shop, but there's this big door that is made to look like the opening of a vault, right? Like a bank vault, and it's like with a big handle on it and all of that stuff, and that's shut. And that's where he holds his personal collection of stuff, which is worth an awful lot of money. There's a lot of really expensive old American English language comic books in there, as well as like Pokemon cards and basketball cards and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
did you get a sense it was mainly English language editions, or was there a cross section?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it was all English language.
Right.
And it's the pop culture desire here is for that kind of thing. It's all anime and Marvel and DC and that kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
And everything here is in English and Arabic. Everything, which as a graphic designer or a typographer, etc., I actually find really interesting to see all the logos in both scripts, both
interesting.
English and in Arabic, to see how they do the typography in both of them.
Yeah.
Is it noisy here? There's a few people.
There's some background sound, but you're coming through fine. So it ebbs and flows. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't
so
start.
You're freezing a lot. So I don't know if I'm coming through sharp and clear, but
Yeah,
quite pixelated.
you're fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was smart enough to reboot my computer from the ground up before we logged on. So whatever is happening is the internet. So,
Okay.
so
So
the
yeah, I
shop.
went to. I didn't actually call it by name. It's called Speedy Comics. And like I said, They didn't have any like monthlies on display. There's a few other pop culture shops which I don't know if they've got monthlies or not, but most of them just look like anime and Funko Pop sort of stores. So I haven't gone to have a look at any of the others.
Right.
Dubai is enormous. The scale of everything is huge. So that includes like the sprawl. The sprawl is quite large. So we had to take a taxi out to not quite the suburbs, but it's like an industrial area, I guess, to one of the malls there to go to Speedy Comics. It wasn't like in the town centre.
Right.
Not that we're staying in the town centre because that's very expensive. But once you do go to one of the CBDs, there seems to be a couple of areas, pockets, but the buildings are just crazy. I'm sure they're all taller than anything we've got in Australia. So even the ones you go, oh, that doesn't look like a very big building. It only doesn't look big because all the others are really huge. And yeah, we went up the tallest building in the world, which was pretty
You didn't take the
amazing.
stairs, did you?
No, and we didn't take the Tom Cruise route either, where you hang on to the outside of the building. But yeah, so yeah, that was. So Speedy Comics is nowhere near that either, which is really very kind of central.
Yeah, right.
So we had to take it. So I'm not gonna like be popping around to all of the different little shops. It's running out of time anyway. We've only got a couple of days here.
Yeah. Was there many customers? What was the foot traffic like?
No, we were the customers, and it's in a little shopping mall like your local Westfields or whatever.
Right.
And there was another shop around from it, which was a gaming shop, and there were people set up outside the shop front, like on trestle tables in the walkway, setting up for Pokemon or something like that, playing some card games. So there's a real appetite for pop culture. So yeah, it's interesting. I was hoping to actually meet the guy who owns it, but he wasn't there. There was somebody else on the desk. So, yeah.
Is there the usual, or I assume so, the usual marketing build-up for Superman and all those other movies that are about to hit in the next month or so? Fantastic Four?
I haven't really seen it here. They've got posters in town for the current movies that are on, like Lilo and Stitch, and what's the other one I've seen a few posters for. But, yeah, it's an interesting town. There's huge like billboards that are, I don't know, 20 stories tall all over the place, but they're mostly advertising real estate. Real estate is the big thing. The thing that I found is like in the last, I think they said it's like been 30 years to build the place. 30 years ago, the tallest building was like 3 stories tall. And,
wow.
And like since then, they've built all of these crazy buildings, basically built a city out of almost nothing. So,
yeah. And 30 years ago, 1995.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, interesting place. I'm glad we came. I wasn't that interested in coming. Anne-Marie really wanted to come. So we stopped off here.
Yeah. And where are you off to next?
Tomorrow we fly to Malta. Because my dad was Maltese and we're taking some of his ashes over. We're going to spread some ashes there.
Yep.
And for, I think it's only one day, there's 14 of my family all got to be there at the one time. So I've got nieces and cousins and my mum and my brother. And so Samuel and Annabelle and obviously Anne-Marie, we're all going to be there. And so my niece and nephew and their partners. So it's going to be 14 of us all there. Most of them are already there. And then we're going to be there to cross over for a day, and then some of them are leaving. And so, it's going to be a pretty wild day.
There is Malta seems to be very popular these days. Got a close friend who's there at the moment, and she's been posting her travel pics from Malta, and it looks absolutely stunning. It looks absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so I'm sure you'll have a blast.
I'm hoping to catch up with Maria Penna. I told you about her the other week. Maria Penna is mostly a storyboard artist, like a lot of us comic book artists end up being. and but she used to do comics, really lovely arty comics from Australia. She's Australian. I was watching her on Instagram do her in situ drawings of people in cafes, and then there was a drawing of a boat on the water, and I went, that looks like a Maltese boat. They've got a particular shape and color. And I finally looked at the location to see where it was she was doing this drawing. She's drawing from Malta, so we've been corresponding as well. So I might catch up with her. She's got a better lay of the land. I've never been, so that's gonna be interesting. So I'll tell you more about that once we're there.
Yeah, indeed. Yes. The Malta episodes.
That's right, exactly. Probably 2 of those.
Yeah. Back here in good old Australia, it's Mel Briggs's birthday today.
Happy birthday, Mal. He's one of the good guys. I keep on saying that.
Yeah. So he's the proprietor, owner of Impact Comics in Canberra, and he's a great supporter of Australian comics. If you don't know Mel, get in touch and buy some comics from him, because he's a great guy, as you say, one of the good guys. So happy birthday, absolutely. Mel. Yeah.
And what a long history he's had too. He's we're not going to say how old he is. Even if we knew, Gary.
I couldn't guess. I couldn't even guess.
When you're that old, you don't talk about it anymore. Oh, I'm sorry, did I mean to say that? But yeah, because he's been in the business for ages as well. He used to just work at and then manage the comic section at Impact Records in Canberra.
That's right.
I think I went to maybe twice in the old days. So Impact Records, down the stairs into this, old, retro, very classic, great looking little record shop. Actually, not that little record shop underground. And then in one of the back corners, there was a section, Impact Comics, where they sold the comics as well. So it was owned by Impact Records. I believe, I don't know if it's all still there, if that area is still there, probably not. But there was, I believe there was like a bit of graffiti on high up on a wall somewhere by Trudy Cooper from way back in the day. So that's how long ago it was. That was like mid-90s Impact Records. But when they were shutting Impact Records, Mal and another fella, I don't know their name, and if you know more about it, then you should take over. But Mal said, maybe I'll buy the comics concern out of Impact Records, and that's where Impact Comics came from. So it's a long running shop.
Didn't they just have an anniversary of some description, like last year or something, like 20 years or something like that? 80 years, 90 years.
That's right. 130 years.
Time.
It'd have to be more than 20. I'm sure it'd be more than 20.
Anyway, we'll do some research and we'll confirm for next week. So
research, that's for losers, man.
We both like being corrected by everyone.
That's right. That's right. Send us in your corrections. This is the audience participation part of the program.
What else have I got here? The only thing that I've done that's comic booky that might be of interest is I've watched, based on your recommendation, and I don't think you've seen it yet, but you said that this is a movie floating or a documentary floating around that I should check out, and that was Married to Comics, the one about Justin Green and Carol Tyler. And I saw that and I was very impressed. And I didn't know too much about those cartoonists, American cartoonists, and it's a great documentary that comes highly recommended. It was made in 2023, so it's very recent. And do you know much about Justin Green and his career at all? Do you know much about Carol Tyler and her career at all?
No.
Justin Green, very famous underground cartoonist. Back in 1972, he released his, let me get this right, Pinky Brown and the Holy Virgin Mary from Last Gasp in San Francisco. And it became sort of like a cornerstone work in the underground scene in the early 70s. And this filmmaker who made this documentary, John Kinhart is his name, wanted to talk to Justin Green about his career and about that work. And it seems that the documentary started off trying to be about Justin Green, but because he's married to Carol Tyler, she basically said, well, to get to him, you got to go through me. And so the documentary started talking about her and her career. And because Justin Green is such a introvert and persnickety kind of guy, that since 1972, he's kind of been battling the fame of that Binky Brown book all across his life and career. And so the documentary included him, but it kind of started to tip its balance towards Carol's career and what she was having to put up with, having children, being married to this cartoonist who had this reputation and who also had his own mental health issues and all that kind of stuff. So it's quite a fascinating story about her perseverance and resilience being married to a persnickety cartoonist who had a lot of luggage.
So does she end up becoming the main subject, or is it pretty kind of evenly spread?
It's evenly spread, but I think she establishes herself and her claim to airtime brilliantly. Like she has while his life is quite sedentary and one note, she has really had the challenges that make viewing the documentary quite entertaining to watch and revelatory, really, because she has been through so much with him and with raising the family and just living the wife of a cartoonist's life. And then she finally realised, no, I've got my career to look after as well. So she started putting her foot down, and the relationship was redefined in a very interesting way. So yeah, something to worth watching. I think that's for sure. I think it's on Prime at the moment, but I didn't
know that. I'll have to have a look.
So
very cool.
Yeah, so I was surprised at that. I learned a lot about Justin Green, because I knew about Binky Brown and I've read it back in the day, but I didn't know much more about him. The other interesting bit of information about his life was that in trying to eschew the underground cartoonist reputation, he trained himself and ran a business doing window signage, painting, butcher style lettering and very high end window designs and logos and stuff. Until he was doing that quite successfully for quite a few years, until that vinyl lettering came in and all that desktop publishing replaced that art form.
Ruined that art form.
Yeah. So there's lots of examples of his window lettering, which is absolutely worth just watching the documentary for that. But it was, again, he chose an industry that had a certain amount of longevity, and then computers have come along and bumped him out of that as well. So it was interesting seeing his career slowing down while hers was on the ascension, and how they still coexisted as two creative types. It wasn't easy. It's not an easy viewing in some scenes, but and he passed away just recently as well. So there was the whole 2/3 the way through or 4/5 the way through, he passed away. Then it was about her having her life back and grieving, and what to do with that whole thing about legacy that we've been talking about in some of the earlier shows. What does she do with this guy's legacy as well? So there's all that that gets covered in the documentary that doubly makes it worthwhile viewing, I think.
Very cool. That's the great thing about documentaries, especially when they take a long time to make, is that they take on a life of their own and become the art of a documentary maker is to create narrative. And sometimes it's to try to wrangle what the new narrative is. Very cool. Oh, definitely have to watch that one. There was a book, I can't remember the title of it, but there was a book all about comic book artists' wives and partners as well. I thought it might have had the same name, but it mustn't have. Oh, it's got a funny name, like at least you're not married to the guy, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, right. That rings a bell, actually. Yeah, that does. Yeah, I think there must be something
interesting insights. Very interesting insights.
Yeah, and of course they have little cameo appearances by Art Spiegelman, Dennis Kitchen. Who else is on there? Passing comment. There's a few other people there that And of course, Carol's publisher is Fantagraphics, a lot of her recent work. And so there's commentary by other people seeing the relationship from the outside, and again seeing that they all acknowledge that Green was a curmudgeon of the highest order, and they sort of praised her with her perseverance. But it seemed to work. The relationship seemed to work, even though it got redefined several times over the years that they were together. So then you get to talk to Robert Crumb is the other guy that gets interviewed a couple of times about Green and about Tyler. So very interesting. Yeah, and they talk to the daughter as well. Growing up with two creative parents, and how she had her own problems as well. So that was very interesting.
So, what are the names of the two subjects again?
Justin Green and Carol Tyler, Tyler.
What's Carol's career highlight that we might know?
Well, ironically, she released a book called Late Bloomer in 2005. That was a selection of short stories. Again, she probably did the parenting thing and decided to jump back into cartooning in a big way. And that was when she basically said to him, like, fuck you, I've got a career as well. I'm going to, you can do your thing. You can live upstairs, I'll live downstairs, and I'm doing my artwork. I've done the parenting for you. There's a child fully formed, like now it's my turn to concentrate on what I'm doing. So it was fantastic. The other thing of note that she's done is Soldier's Heart, which is a story about her father in World War II and the different wars that he participated in. That was another Fantagraphics book from 2015. And recently, since Green passed away, her other major graphic novel that was just released this year by Fantagraphics was, let me get this right, The Ephemerata, Shaping the Exquisite Nature of Grief, which is her most recent work. Again, obviously talking to life and experiences after Justin Green, and rationalising, what does she do now? So that would be well. I haven't read it, but it'd be well worth tracking down.
Yeah, right. Yeah, cool. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I watched on the plane over. I watched the Mignola documentary on your
Roaring Monsters
advice. Yeah, it was really great. I found all of this stuff. I feel like I need to watch kind of twice to really.
Definitely.
That they're. I love the insight into other people's careers, interesting insights into interesting people's interesting careers. Mignola's was really cool.
It was so inspirational. So inspirational.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Tell me, you said that to me, that it's really fired you up.
God, it's hard to clarify. Just that I see not similarities, but I'm struggling for words. But I can sort of put myself in his place as well. So I was getting a brotherly vibe watching the show, and one of the things that stood out for me, which isn't answering your question, but it's just a highlight from the show that I remember pausing and going, "Wow, that's pretty bloody powerful," was when he was working with Guillermo del Toro on the first Hellboy movie, and it was quite a 50-50 kind of creative input as to the vision that is going to end up on screen. The tide kind of shifted with the second movie, where it became more of a del Toro project, and the tension between the two of them, who were quite friendly, was starting to show. And there was one meeting in particular where Mike Mignola said to del Toro, Hellboy wouldn't do that. And del Toro looked at him and said, your Hellboy wouldn't, but my Hellboy would. And that was a moment in Mignola's growth of, hold on a sec, I've let my baby go, and now other people are interpreting it. I can't stop it.
Yeah.
I have no control over my child that is now grown up and is walking away. As much as because he comes across as a little bit of a control freak, which is fine. We're all like that with our IPs. But I thought that was very, very telling that he reached that point in that meeting with Del Toro where it was like, hold on a sec. Of course it's Del Toro's movie. It's his version. And yes, of course.
Yeah.
And I think from that point onwards is probably when Mignola went back to his studio and started opening up the Hellboy universe to other writers and other artists, even more than he had to that point. And I thought that was very telling. There'll always be Hellboy on the printed page, but as soon as you start letting other people interpret, then you've got to let go.
Yeah.
As you found with Greener Pastures and dealing with other creatives.
Absolutely. So that was the part that also spoke to me directly right now. It's, whenever you experience a story, you experience it through the context of where your life is at the moment. So with what we're doing with the Greener Pastures short film, and then hopefully with a television show, it's very serendipitous that I hadn't watched this documentary till now. I think I'm probably watching it at the exact right time. Because that's exactly what I was thinking too. And the short film, I want to keep some control over as much as I can, which is proving a little bit difficult. But from the very beginning, I've been saying once we get to the point of making the television show, I understand that I'll probably have almost no control, and I have to keep on reminding myself of that. If I want a television show made, then I'm gonna have to let go, and it's proving more difficult than I thought it would. I keep on saying that the whole idea of hopefully getting a television show is that it will just fund me making the comics, so that I'll have some funds coming in somehow, and so therefore I'm not really concerned too much about what they do as long as they make it profitable. But I keep on arguing with myself about that. So that whole that whole thing with the conversation between Del Toro and Mignola about whose version of Hellboy this is, and then Mignola allowed two more versions to be filmed, both of which I haven't seen the latest one, but both of which have been panned pretty widely, right? Not really thought of as being terribly good.
I really enjoyed the most recent one. I thought it was really very good.
Oh, you did?
Very close to the comics.
All right, I'll have to have a look at it. Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
It's certainly not Ron Perlman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
There's very little fun and humor in it. It's quite the horror movie.
Right. Not as many quips and joviality.
Yeah.
All right. I'll get around to seeing it. But yeah, what a great documentary. Really, really worth.
And I thought the documentary was great when they talked to Mignola's wife. And I thought it was great that they talked about his work ethic and how he was all about momentum and getting behind the board and working till just that work ethic of rolling forward and not knowing anything else, not being distracted and just drawing and writing and drawing and writing. And I think that was key. That was one of my takeaways of I feel that I've got all the pieces that I need in my little bucket of things to do with the Jackaroo, and now I just need to start implementing them even more than I have been. And it was like it was very focusing and very inspiring seeing someone who's been in the industry for so long. That was the other thing that I was quite reminding of my own path was Mignola's early attempts at American comics and superheroes, and realizing that he was coming up against the brick wall of I'm not good at this. This isn't my thing, and trying to find what he was good at and what he'd be happy and prepared to do for day in and day out. So you got to find your own happy, and that's a very hard thing to do. It's okay to initially want to draw Spider-Man, but if you find out that no one's hiring you to draw Spider-Man because you're not very good at it, the sooner you realize that and find your own happy, the better everyone will be.
Yeah, exactly. He's very self-deprecating. I kind of feel like a lot of what he said was terrible was probably not terrible. It's not like I'm the hugest Mignola fan, right? I don't follow him to everything religiously, but I really enjoy his work. I think he's incredible, right? But
Yeah.
I can remember when Cosmic Odyssey came out, which he's talking about. It's probably one of the last real superhero things he did. I can remember even then there was a buzz around Mignola when he did something, and in the documentary he kind of talks that down as if nobody really was even fan wise was interested in his work, and I don't think that was quite right.
It was interesting that one project of his that was quite high profile, it was totally sidestepped and not mentioned at all. It was glimpsed at in a couple of montages, was the Dracula film adaptation that really made quite an impact, I think, for Topps Comics and for generating interest in the movie and vice versa. But I thought that was quite interesting that out of all of the projects, that one was given short shrift and pretty much ignored.
Yeah. It's funny, the one time I met him, Mignola, was at a comic convention in London when Anne-Marie and I were first in Europe backpacking 30 years ago. And I had a tiny little A6 sketchbook, and I had a lot of people signing it. And I asked Mignola to do a drawing in it. And he said, what do you want me to draw? And I went, oh, whatever you're working on now. So I've got like a Bram Stoker's Dracula pencil drawing from Mignola in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that work ethic, right? That was probably the other thing that continually is the reminder that I like to get from the other successful professionals. It's always about work ethic. It's never about luck.
That work ethic only happens once you find what you're happy to be behind the drawing board doing a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's an important 1-2 point there is, like if you're doing something that is just a pain in the ass and you hate drawing cars, for example, don't do a racing car strip, because you're going to just be in agony all the time. You've got to find you're happy, and that'll make it easier for you to be behind the drawing board more and more often.
Yeah, exactly. So I watched on the same flight, I rewatched the Dave Stevens Drawn to Perfection documentary, and I watched a mini doco on Seth, the Canadian cartoonist.
Right. Yep.
And the through point, the commonality in all three of those was the work ethic, crazy work ethic. And you look at Dave Stevens and go, wow, where are the comic pages that are supposed to prove the work ethic? Well, there's a lot of other stuff he did as well. And when I heard through the documentary of Seth's daily routine, I was blown away. It's just like he's a very routine oriented person. And it's just the enormous amount of work he does, including work which is not necessarily for print, not necessarily a project that he's working on, to make a book out of, but it's part of the day, and he like a diary, right? So a diary that'll probably never get seen. And this weird project where he's making a city, he's inventing a city called Dominion, and just sketchbook after sketchbook full of all of his notes and the old history of the place, and who the mayors were, and all of this stuff. It's like, and he's going, well, maybe there is something in here that I can publish, but it's not what he's trying to make. So that was a really interesting little doco as well. I think it was only like 40 minutes.
Right.
It's called Seth's Dominion.
Right. Okay. The other one that I dipped my toe into on your recommendation was the manga artist series. Man Bat.
I don't have it in front of me, so if I change what I'm looking at on the iPad, I might lose you.
From what I can gather, it's an artist per show, interviewing individual artists and their life and their process. Apparently, the Katsuhiro Otomo one, which was filmed over the last 12 months, is really hard to track down anywhere for some strange reason. I don't know why, but I'd be fascinated to watch that one. So I dipped my toe into a couple of artists I hadn't heard of before and their work routines, and talk about work ethic. And that's crazy, but that's a whole different world, really.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into that one yet. I've got the collection, so I'll have to have a look. But yeah, it's a famous doco show that is it Neko? I don't know. You'll have to put it in the show notes what the actual name is.
Show notes.
That's for losers, man. It goes the way of
two things: facts, and show notes for losers. Yeah,
that's right, exactly. And we both know we're not losers. And listen, before we get off the doco stuff, I just made a note because I just remembered. I haven't watched it recently. I watched it probably a good year or more ago. But if you want to see a scary documentary about what can happen to your work and your creation as a cartoonist, not so much as a comic book artist, although this artist did do comic strips. It's called Feels Good Man. I'm sorry to the cartoonist, I can't remember their name, but it's the documentary about that cartoon frog. That became a meme.
Yeah.
And I'm an old man, so I don't understand a lot of what internet culture is, and what do they call like young men who still live in the basement, and well, anyway,
my customer base.
Be careful now. Not at all. Your customer base is very highbrow and intelligent and discerning.
Thank you.
But it because there was an appropriation of that frog and the term "feels good man" into a meme, and then into right wing kind of politics. Like it's a crazy, really interesting documentary about what this guy was going through and trying to get back control of his most famous creation. And all these people making so much money out of it that he wasn't, because they were just making merch that doesn't belong to him. And also just talked about his life as a cartoonist, and where feels good man. It just feels good, man. Feels good, man. Where that came from is also really interesting. So
did that not have an underground comics origin of some description, or an alternative comics?
Yeah, alt comics. Yeah. I think I watched it on SBS or iView or something quite a while ago. I don't know if it'll still be there.
Right.
But if it's not, I'm sure you could track it down somewhere. But yeah, really.
You're giving me homework. You're giving me homework. Show notes. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Homework, show notes, facts. Who needs it, man?
Yeah, you're on holidays. You're not caring about this. You're giving all the work to me to do, and I'm here working hard.
See you later, loser. Yeah. All right. Well, that's fantastic. I'm actually looking forward to the next flight, and hopefully I've got Love and Rockets, a couple of docos, Love and Rockets, so I'm keen to look at there as well.
Right. Yeah.
Definitely that Japanese one.
I haven't heard back from Fantagraphics about my letter of complaint about the latest Love and Rockets collection being at a different size. Most disappointed. Most disappointed. I'll have to send another letter of complaint about their lack of response.
Did you write directly to Gary Groth?
Yes. Yes.
Good.
I haven't heard back from him.
Come on, Gary. Yeah, I know you watch the show, Gary.
Gary can be such jerks. Gary's can.
That's the collective noun for a group of Garys.
A jerk of Garys.
A jerk of Garys. Oh no, here comes that jerk of Garys.
Watch out, you made Belle laugh from downstairs. Woman, I'll show you the back of my hand.
There you go.
Okay. Well, if you've got nothing else to talk about, we can call it.
I want to know what's on the drawing board there. Nice oversized color thing there.
That's the old Cyclone poster from back in the day. You've seen one of those?
Yes. I might have one of those actually.
Yes, I came across a supply of them.
Oh, so good. Hand separated?
Hand separated, yeah.
Yeah.
And the old Escape with an Australian comic logo that was supposed to be across all the, or suggested to be across all the Australian comics being published at the time, but it never took off. So I
would have used it if I was publishing at the time.
Yeah. And I didn't like that word. Why is it all sort of like scallopy and yeah. Anyway.
Who came up with that? It wasn't you?
I think it was me and Frank McConaughey, in all fairness. I think it was...
yeah.
Greg McConaughey of New Age Graphics, who was responsible for the early Oz Comics editions, and fantastic.
Yeah.
But anyway,
great. It's that's one of my favorite poses of the Jackaroo. Is that like first or second story?
Yeah, second story, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it, when you're that early in your career, whatever. And I know that people like you and me, but people like you, that page number was probably I don't know, the 100th, 200th page you might have drawn by that stage in your career, but it's might only be the 20th or 40th that we had seen as an audience. Right. There's like this point where the ramp just elevates, and all of a sudden you go, just even as I don't know how old I was, a pretty young person, but even you can kind of go, this artist is starting to crack on now. You can really see it. So very, very exciting to get into the second installment of the Jackaroo and see an image like that. And go, yes, give us more.
Yeah. Well, I have been drawing Jackaroo a lot these days, so it's I'm getting back into the the Jackaroo vibe, and it's been fun. So, in handling the new editions, I've had to reapproach some of the art and not overworked in old artwork, but replace some panels for some storytelling facts that sort of smooth over things. It's just like 40 years, 35 years is a long time to. I was a young person developing these stories back then, and the not errors, but the missteps are very clear after 40 years. So I'm taking the opportunity to patch them up a little bit and fix the bumps in the stories that are glaringly obvious to me now, but weren't back in the day. Yeah, because back then I was trying to tell my story, but the attraction of doing crossovers with Dave's Southern Squadron and Dark Nebula and all the other characters that were floating at the time really did push me away from the path that I should have been taking for the character.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I'm doing is refocusing that original story to be more about the Jackaroo and the path that he was taking as a character. So being more truthful and honest for the character's sake.
Yeah, fantastic. But you were having fun, right? Back then, you're doing the crossovers and all the other superheroes. And
And the funny thing is now, if a young artist was to come up to me and say, I want to do a team up with this or a team up with that, I would strongly suggest, I know you're doing a team up comic as well, but I would strongly suggest establish your character and do the team up things reluctantly and as very much a side project, separate project. Because if you get distracted and start doing the team ups too soon, you could end up just derailing what you were doing with your characters in the first place.
Yeah, I'll take a little bit of a sidestep to that and say I think as a young comic book artist, if you're having fun, you're learning stuff, and pumping out pages is always a great thing. But yeah, we've got Greener Pastures team up still on the drawing board. It's taking a little while, but I was going to bring it up actually because I think overnight my time, Jason Paulos posted an opening page to our team up. Hasn't been officially announced. Not that that's a big deal, but have I talked about this on the show already? I know I've talked to you about it, but
you might have, but worth repeating.
I'm kind of asking a few people if they want to do a team up with their character and Trevor Bovis or any of the Greener Pastures characters. And I asked Jason, and he jumped at it immediately, which was great. Sent me a plot, and it was really cool. And then, within hours, I think that was. And then soon after that, he said, "No, I don't like that one. Here's another one." Sent me another plot, and I think that the second one that he sent me was basically thumbnails. He was sending me thumbnails, not even a plot, really.
Okay. Yeah.
So within no time at all, he had thumbnailed out the whole thing, and then was doing pencils and saying, "When are you going to ink it, McEwen? Ink me one panel so I can see what it's looking like." I'm going, "No, I've got too much other stuff going on for this long range side project for me to be doing something like that." So he he said, so he must have basically been between projects, because the next thing I know, he goes, "Oh, I couldn't wait. I was bored. So here are the inked pages." So he'd basically inked the whole thing. I think it might be 2 8-page installments that will probably be in Team Up 1 and 2. Totally done, gone, ready to rock and roll. In his in his current kind of EC-ish, quite energetic and rough illustration style, with Hairbutt and Trevor and Hairbutt's brother. I forget Hairbutt's brother's name. And a few other characters. So good fun, lots of fart jokes, lots of people getting, slapped into oblivion. So it'll be great. So first issue of Greener Pastures Team Up. I've been saying this for years. Will probably come out next year. I've been saying that for years. But the first issue will have a Jackaroo crossover, penciled by Hernandez, inked by me, co-written, or mostly written by Darren Close, with a little bit of help from Michael on our end, and I'll be inking that one. The first part of the Hairbutt thing. So that'll be fun.
The difference with that project, though, is that you have established Greener Pastures well and truly as its own thing. So I suppose the clarification that I'd make was not to be derailed by team-ups too soon in the development of a new set of characters, because it becomes very difficult to untangle the IPs when the time is right for that to be a clear path of,
Well, that's the other thing that I'm making clear to anyone who is contributing, is that it's non-canon. For us, it's non-canon, absolutely non-canon. So not to the point where I'm happy for the characters to get killed, but definitely, like, I'm not trying to make it canon. But that being said, when I said Darren wrote the Jackaroo story, am I getting this wrong now? Or is it the other way around? Did Michael write it? It's been a while since I borrowed out the pages, and Darren added in for it. But basically, Michael was trying to make it pretty close to canon,
right?
Which means we can't really do too much with reprinting it in situ kind of thing. But it takes place in a period after the 1990s Greener Pasture stories, where Trevor's at university, but before the 2020 stuff where he's got his jobs. So it's like he's been working at the law firm for like a few months. So it's like a very young man sort of Trevor, but he's in his suit, still got his horns, but already in a job. So and Michael was pretty keen to try to work through some canon stuff there. And make that work. But then you get the Jason Paulus one, and it's got aliens and Kirby style cosmic shenanigans. So it's definitely not canon.
And I think that's the safest way of looking at it. Really is that exactly? It's just this is just a bit of fun off the side, but the main thing is sitting there still to be enjoyed. But the team up stuff is fun.
All right. Well, look, I've got to go.
Okay. You got to bust the catch. Yeah. Well, that went quite well.
Take us to the Gulf of Persia. Yeah.
Okay. So you let us know when. You send us through a calendar of when the next meeting will be. So we'll give it a go from another place in the world.
Yeah. Hang on.
Okay. Where am I going?
I did a hand gesture, and it automatically wanted to do something with it. Wow.
Oh, okay. Rightio. Right. Thanks, everyone. And Tim, safe travels, be safe, and we'll catch up for the next exciting travel log.
Brilliant. All right. See you all later. Bye.
Bye.